Morvid Collective.
What's up, all you horror movie loving fuckers? Welcome back to another episode of Fright Flick FMK. As always, I am your host, Jay. And as always, I'm joined by my delicious co host, the gentleman and Jack. But this week, family, it's a little different. I got my first interview this week. Never had an interview before because I'm a little nervous. I got my guy, Sid, from Sid Somatics. Sid, how you doing today, brother?
I'm more nervous than you.
Seriously, I honestly wouldn't have guessed. No, hell no. I was like nervous like all day because I'm sitting there thinking like I've never done an interview before. I just always pick a horror movie, I talk shit about it, and that's it. And so I was nervous all day. But
Mhm.
for the ones who are tuning in and listening to this, we're going to be interviewing Sid, who is a writer, director, filmmaker. Wears all the hats. My guy wears all the hats.
I do. You know, they don't
Yeah.
always fit. My head is
Hey,
kind of a little big, but
hey, this we're on here to talk about your short film, Headstone of Solitude. And I want to read off real quick
mhm.
the your IMDB on this, like the little description of it
Yeah,
before we get into it.
absolutely.
But this is set in early 1900s Ireland. A troubled and delusional young man, dependent on the attention of his mother, grows increasingly obsessed with the mysterious death of his wife. So, and I don't know if I mentioned to you before we started this, Sid, but I do spoilers here.
Yeah,
So,
that's all good.
yeah,
Let's jump right into it.
yeah. And but before we get into this, though, I want you. This show's about you, brother, and I want you to introduce yourself and let us
Mhm.
know, who you are,
Mhm.
because everybody's heard my shit talking self before. So, yeah, go ahead and go ahead and tell us about yourself, brother.
Well, thank you for that. I'm a young, aspiring filmmaker from New York. I really enjoy the artistic integrity behind television and films and whatnot. And I just really enjoy creating things that people can indulge in and enjoy and possibly even feel something from. And so, I do a lot of photography and um, little things relating to film in general, like little smaller stuff. But with Headstone, it was kind of a big leap for me. It was something a lot longer than the few minute videos I'm used to posting on my Instagram and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think Headstone was certainly a leap of faith for me in terms of the amount of work and the duration of it, really.
Yeah, and now I don't know you if you don't have to share this if you don't want to. When you say young, what when I
I,
hear
I yeah, I'm 18.
holy shit. Well, damn, I feel old now.
Nah, you're good, man. I was actually 17 when I made the film. Like I,
Oh
I only just
wow,
turned 18 a few weeks ago.
wow, and that to me is adds another wow to Headstone to Solitude, man. It really does because
Thank you.
I had no clue, and uh, God damn it, that's just like that's a whole nother level to me now. It makes me look at it even different now. But where okay about the and you mentioned the photography
Yeah.
that you do, and I came
Mm.
across on your was it on Instagram? I seen it.
Yeah, I have some stuff on Instagram. Yeah.
Yep. Your link tree. Your link tree. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah. I clicked on it and I seen a lot of photos and stuff on there,
Mhm.
and very talented.
Thank
Very.
you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think photography is certainly kind of a gateway for me to express myself without the effort of having to make a film. I think it's
Hmm.
certainly another outlet for me aside from filmmaking, and it's sort of a way for me to tell a story through just one still image. I mean, films are called motion pictures for a reason.
Hmm.
They're essentially photography that is moving. And so I think me doing photography is sort of just an outlet for me.
Did you get into the photography before you decided to go the filmmaking?
I've honestly always been recording videos
Okay.
since I was younger, and I actually did some animation stuff all throughout like 2019 and 2020, even before that. And then I started to get into more. I started to take it more seriously, probably within the past 2 years or so. So I would say filmmaking and just creating stories has always been sort of a passion of mine, even since going back to when I was really young.
Okay. And when you say animated type stuff, I'm curious because
Hmm.
my stepdaughter, she loves anime.
Hmm.
And when I hear that, that's automatically think about that stuff. She likes to draw and she likes to see, and a lot of the movies she
Yeah.
likes to watch and stuff like that. So is
Hmm.
that kind of what you're talking about?
It's a little different.
Okay.
I think the proper term would be called a machinima. So you're taking an engine from a video game, and you're sort of creating a cinematic visual out of a video game engine. And
Okay.
so it's a little different.
Okay.
So I'm not actually drawing anything, but the
Uh,
stories and the amount of work that goes into it was certainly substantial.
oh, it sounds that's way above me because I remember when hey, when I started the podcast thing, I had to learn, as
Yeah.
like when it comes to like social media and doing all this stuff, so I've had to kind
Mhm.
of learn it. So when I hear people like you talking about this, I'm just like,
Mhm.
man, I am like out of my realm.
No, no worries, man. I'll probably be there one day. No worries.
Oh man. But yeah, and luckily, like when you reached out to me about doing the show,
Yeah,
I've never had an interview before, never, so this is the
yeah.
first. You are
There's a
popping my
first time for
cherry.
everything.
You are popping the cherry here on Fright Flick. And you reached out to me about doing it. And
Yeah.
and I was even the cooler thing about it, and what I liked a lot about it was when you wanted to do this, asked me about doing the show together, and I told you I'm all for discussing anything. And when you gave me the go ahead to be like to rate it, to fuck it, marry, kill it, I was like, hell yeah, I get to like,
Hell yeah, dude. Listen, you do what you got to do, man.
yeah,
I definitely don't want to back down from what anything else might have to say about the film. I'm really open to anyone's opinion. I think if someone takes the time to indulge in what you create, I think they certainly have the right to say anything they want about it.
agree. And I was super excited when you gave me the green light, and so I was I was like,
Hell
okay,
yeah, man.
so we're not just here he's gonna let me give my rating on
Yeah,
it when we're when
absolutely.
we when we get done talking about it, and so we're gonna jump into Headstone of Solitude, and then
Hmm.
once we talk about it and all that, we'll kind of shoot the shit a little bit toward the end of it,
Alrighty.
So,
Yep, sounds
um,
good.
because I had a lot of questions while I'm watching it,
Yeah,
and
I've gotten that a lot.
yeah,
I've had a lot of people ask me a lot of questions.
and so, but I hear, and now that I know that you're fucking 18, it's just that impresses me more, and so,
Thank you.
um, what where did Headstone of Solitude come from? Like where was that
Yeah.
original like where did that come from?
I would say that this past winter, as I started to develop the film, I got a lot into the works of David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sort of inspired by the emptiness to his films, and between his influence and another influence from a film by the likes of The Banshees of Inisherin, which came out pretty recently. It got a lot of award season hype. That film takes place in around the same time period as Headstone. It takes place in Ireland in the early 1900s. I just thought that aesthetic was really interesting. And then obviously a lot of Edgar Allan Poe influence as well within the film. So kind of a mixture of those three right there, kind of just came together in my mind. And But I kind of went through sort of a depressive phase, I guess, through the winter of thinking about this film,
Mm-hmm.
and I sort of just got to work on it, and it obviously went through a lot of development, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was intended to be a lot shorter, but I just kept writing and writing, and I certainly tried to flesh out the story more, and I feel like I got to a point where I was satisfied with what I had in terms of material.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
think especially now that it's came out and people have asked me so many questions and are so curious, I feel like I've done a pretty solid job at that of creating different illusions and sort of leaving a lot of things up for interpretation.
Yes, and one thing that I will say is I am kind of the type that I'm always in awe of anyone who can come up with, like, people who do movies, people who write songs, people who do all
Mhm.
this stuff. You
Yeah.
know, I sit back and I look at it, I'm like, holy shit, man. Like that creativeness that people have,
Mm.
some people have it, some people don't. I don't. It's it's not in
That's
me.
fair, man.
Yeah, it really isn't. Like, I got my younger brother John, who does
Mhm.
the show with me sometimes. He is that creative way, you know.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
he's really can sit there and just knock out like
Yeah.
stories and all this stuff.
Mm.
And for me, it's like I enjoy it and I appreciate it, but I don't have that switch. So,
Mm.
but
I can understand that.
yeah, and so when I watched this and Headstone of Solitude, and I'm watching it, and and I'm the fact that knowing, like, after we had talked and you gave me the links and I kind of looked at it and watched it, read up on it, knowing that this came from you. This was
Yeah, I was certainly heavily involved within pretty much every aspect. I mean, a lot of other filmmakers, such as myself, happen to have the same, fortunes of doing mostly everything by themselves.
Mhm.
Um, I think that just comes with the territory. And I think certainly as I grow as a filmmaker, I'll hopefully be able to expand upon things like cast and crew and just the stories overall.
Oh yes, and so we're going to jump into Headstone of Solitude,
Mm,
and like I said, Fright Flick family, we do spoilers here. I pushed this out. Y'all have had a week now. I pushed this out in the social media.
mhm.
The link's out there. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Like, it's there. And and if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, all of this info is going to be in the bio underneath for this episode. All his links, all of Sid's Instagram, his uh everything where you can watch it. It's all going to be there. And so we will spoil it. I'm going to spoil it because I'm looking forward to it, because I've never, for me, like, I love horror movies, but
Mhm,
horror to me, I've only gotten into it over the last couple years thanks to my younger brother.
mhm,
And so I've never been one that really followed it. That was just, I've
mhm,
always just seen a movie. Oh, that looks good. I want to watch it.
mhm.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So horror to me's been new. And when I hit my brother up, I was like, give me some titles. And man, he
Mm,
threw me in the deep end right out of the gate.
I can imagine.
Oh, yes. And so I've never really watched a short film. I've
Mhm,
always just seen what's kind of, the normal thing. And so when you sent me the link and we talked about it and I watched the trailer,
mhm.
right out of the gate, I thought you were Irish.
I,
And
I'm not. I mean, I'm Irish in terms of heritage, but I'm very American. Like
yeah,
I live all the way in New York.
okay. And when I watched the trailer, I remember telling my wife, I think he's Irish. I said, I watched the trailer, and I said, I think he's Irish. And she's like, "Where's he from?" I was like, "I'm not really sure." And this is before you had sent me the links and stuff, and where
Yeah,
it showed you're from New York. And
yeah.
so all I had was the trailer. And I was like, yeah, I said, he's Irish. And then when I talked to you, I said, hey babe, he's not Irish. And so kudos to and did that something you just have like that, be able to do that, or
Um,
do you have to kind of work on getting that down?
I worked on it a little bit.
Okay.
Going back to earlier that film I had mentioned, the Banshees of Inisherin,
Yep.
given that it takes place in Ireland, and the performances in that film were just phenomenal by the likes of Colin Farrell. I had really studied that film and what their accent sounded like, and kind of just Irish people in that era in general. And so I kind of developed it over, I would say, about a few weeks or so. As I was writing the script, I was kind of practicing to myself, and reading lines to myself, and kind of figuring out how I can mesh this accent together. But I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I try and mask my New York accent as much as possible, just even when I'm talking. So
Yeah. See, at least you're able to. I got this southern twang that there's no fucking masking it. Because I was earlier today, and
yeah.
I was on my lunch break actually today, and I'm
Hmm.
sitting there, and I pulled up the Headstone of Solitude again. I wanted to watch it again. I wanted to be more
Wow.
fresh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching it, but then I catch myself because this is after I now know, you don't speak Irish all the time. And so as I'm listening to you do it, I'm sitting at my
Yeah.
desk and I'm trying to do it like
Hmm.
the same way. And I'm just like, holy shit, I just sound like I don't know if how the country Irish sound,
Hmm.
but it had to be something the way I was trying to pull off some shit today. But
Gotcha.
so when and man, right out and here's one of my kudos that I really enjoyed with Headstone of Solitude,
Hmm.
the music choices.
Thank you.
I am a huge fan. I tell people I was born in the wrong decade. I
Hmm.
love the 1900s and 1920s, 1930s. I just love that time frame.
It,
And
it was a beautiful time
oh
for sure.
yes. And I love the music you had in it.
Thank you.
I While I'm at work, I have a playlist that plays nothing but like 1930s, 1940s jazz type music. That's what I listen
Hell
to.
yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
listen to
awesome.
that at work. And
Hmm.
so as soon as I started hearing the music to it that you had also, I was like, I was a big
Hmm.
fan of that. So kudos on the music
Thank
choice.
you.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank
Eh,
you.
Now, when, and this is where we're going to get into the spoilers, people. So if you haven't seen it, reach over there, push the fucking pause button, go check it out, and then come back and listen to me and Sid get all up into some spoilers.
Hell yeah.
Um, so this one starts off with you. He was at the kitchen writing a letter, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, and he's writing a letter to his mother,
Hmm.
talking about his passing of his wife Amber,
Yes.
and there's like a picture there
Hmm.
of Amber, very attractive looking lady. Is
Thank you.
uh,
That's my real life great grandmother.
no shit.
Yeah, yeah. I've been asked that about a few times, and yeah, that was a picture of her from that era. I mean, she's long passed away. I've
Yeah,
never met her, but yeah, that is a genuine picture of one of my ancestors.
I just gives it a whole nother little. Yeah, that's crazy.
I'll tell her you said that though next time I see her.
Yeah.
Might be a while from now, but
Hey, but yeah, I was a very attractive lady. And so he's writing a letter to her, and he's talking about, his the love of his life, Amber, has passed away.
Mhm.
And this dude was in love with Amber.
He was very
I,
deeply in love.
very, very deeply in love with Amber. You could just tell, like, and you, this was all you. You did the acting. This
Yeah,
was like when y'all go watch this. This is Sid.
yeah. I play the main
Yeah,
character in the film.
yeah. Plays the main character. Wrote everything. This is him. And when he's writing this letter, another thing I was a big fan
Mhm.
of was I don't know how you did it. I'm not smart like this, but the sound you had, that little popping, almost like a vinyl record sound. I love listening to a vinyl record.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of
yeah.
vinyl records as well.
Love a record player. I got a record player. Love the
Me too.
sound of it. And so I like that. I enjoyed that about it. Where it had that
Hmm.
just that it just had an old school feel to it to me.
Absolutely.
And so he's writing this letter, and I don't want to do all the talking. I want you to kind of talk me through
Hmm.
what what's going on, and then I want to kind of chime in on where my mind went on some shit.
All right. I think in terms of that scene that you're referring to, and really just most of the scenes in the film, or all of them, where he's writing to his mother about Amber,
Yeah.
I think it's really to kind of exemplify his obvious obsession with his dead wife, and to kind of lead on to curiosity about to where this woman is, or who she really is. And
Mm-hmm.
I think by the end of the film, it's kind of thrown up in the air in regards to Amber and her mother and his mother being possibly the same person, which
Oh yeah, you threw that right
which
up in the
yeah,
air.
we'll definitely explore that a little later. But yeah, I think a lot of those letters throughout the film are to really just kind of delve into his psyche, and to kind of showcase throughout each stage of the film how more so he's losing his sanity.
Yep. And one of my favorite parts
Hmm.
of it was that next. I took it as like the next day where he's out there, like on the out in the like the tree line,
Yeah.
and I took that as maybe that's where Amber's buried. That's where I
Hmm.
took that, and where he's just sitting there talking, and where
Hmm.
you're talking, hell, that was you doing it. But you're talking, and he's talking about how like the sun, and how Amber liked the sun,
Hmm.
and he's smoking the cigarette, and I just like that whole part
Thank
of
you.
him just talking,
Hmm.
and yeah, that was everything. It was just, man, it gave off such a, and I'm big on how movies kind of hit me right out of the gate. It kind of, if
Hmm.
a movie kind of gives me this where I can't explain it,
Hmm.
there's just something about it that kind of grabbed my attention. And
Thank you.
so he's the dude is just struggling,
Hmm.
trying to deal with the death of his wife.
Hmm.
And so and then it jumps to where it brings in I had his name pulled up on my screen real quick.
The groundskeeper.
The groundskeeper, Brandon
Yes.
Fagan, right? Brandon Fagan.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, it shows him.
Hmm.
And at first, when I thought that was you too. It took me
No.
a second to catch it.
Hmm.
And wasn't it the same time where he meets the groundskeeper, right?
Hmm.
And he kind of like, how you doing today? And the groundskeeper just fucking, he's kind of cold towards him.
He is cold towards him.
Yes.
He's kind of an asshole.
Yep. And then the movie grabbed me even more
Hmm.
when he dropped the fuck word in there. I'm a fan. And so, and I like that it had that, you know, this was,
Hmm.
I get it, early 1900s. You know,
Hmm.
I like to think that the fuck word was around back then.
I think it definitely was. I
Yes.
don't think it was very gentlemanlike, but it for sure was. I think there was even probably worse slurs and
Oh
slang
yeah,
words
yeah,
said back then.
most definitely. And so as soon as they're kind of going back and forth, you
Hmm.
know, but I can't remember because my memory's terrible. Was that after the scene where the groundskeeper is having his dinner?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's right. Because I remember when it jumped to that scene, all I seen was that plate of food,
Hmm.
and the simple part of him with the spoon, kind
Hmm.
of stirring it around and picking it up, and
Yeah.
how you could just hear that. Like you could hear the kind of mushy sound and the clinking, and
That's
and
one way to describe it.
yeah, and for I'm a very simple minded person, so
Hmm.
so certain things like that, I liked it. And then when he's sitting there at the table and he's like, and this is one of the first parts that kind of makes my that you did so well of just leaving something out there and being like,
Mhm.
take it for how you want it. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, that's essentially the entire film.
yes. And this was the first part where the groundskeeper's yelling upstairs to his uh son Charlie about
Hmm.
don't leave his plate on the table, type thing.
Hmm.
And I hear this sound upstairs. And this is once again, people, spoilers. You've been
Big
warned.
spoiler right here.
Big spoiler. And I hear this sound.
Mhm.
Now, my mind being as fucked up as it sounds like some people having sex up there.
I think you're right. I think you're
Okay.
right to assume that.
Okay. And then I hear this little voice. Now,
Mhm.
the part about the voice that got me was it almost sounded, was that you doing that voice?
It was me. I mean, it wasn't necessarily my character.
Yeah.
I purposely did the voice so
Okay.
people would twist it up a little bit and be like,
Okay.
"Whoa, is this the same guy?"
Yeah. See, very well done then, because I jumped all over that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so that's the first part of this film that had me going. And once this part's over, it doesn't go back to it. So you're left
Mhm.
just wondering, like, did I really just hear like mattress? Did I just hear some fucking mattress springs upstairs? Like,
They
what?
certainly weren't baking cookies or
Yes.
anything.
Like, what's Charlie got going on upstairs? But then another part I took to it before that,
Mhm.
I took was Charlie's the groundskeeper and Charlie.
Mhm.
Like, once again, I have my brain goes kind of fucked up sometimes. And so I'm thinking, like, is the way he's like yelling at Charlie, I'm like, is this dude like one of them parents that does shit with the kids? I didn't know.
That's a good assumption.
Yeah. And
That's certainly
so,
a good assumption.
but, and yep. So that's the first one that got me going, like 20 questions right then in that one part.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, and so and that I liked it. I like the fact that you just kind of leave it hanging and being like,
Mhm.
you know what? Take it however you want to take it. Like, you fill in the blanks, and then, let's go with it that way. So, and then that's when it went to the next day, to where uh what's the old boy's name? I just went blank again. Your name.
uh my Williams.
Williams. Thank you.
Yes.
And so it was that next day where he was out there at the gravesite and he bumps into the groundskeeper. Groundskeeper's kind of cold to him. And it's crazy because, like, and eventually Williams throws it right back at him,
Mhm.
because when he asked him at one point, Williams asked the groundkeeper, what's your boy's name? And he's like, oh, that's a beautiful name. And then the groundskeeper basically, you know, talking to me about how did his wife die,
Mhm.
and then Williams looks at him and be like, well, that's kind of like none of your fucking business,
That was probably one of my favorite lines to
Yeah.
say in the film.
Yep. And so I like that part, that back and forth between them two.
Hmm.
And so I can't remember exactly what part came next after they had their meeting out there in the field area.
Hmm.
Was it holy shit, was it the part where you were sitting there at the table eating out of the bowl?
Yes, I believe so.
Oh yeah, here's another one.
Yeah, this is probably leading up to the climax of the film, honestly.
Yep. This one, and I've already warned y'all people, fucking spoilers. Um, and I wanted to spoil it with you because I wanted to be able to ask you these questions, and I wanted to
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
of
wanted,
course.
because I was like, if I want to get on here with Sid, I said, I want to be able to like tell him what I was feeling and what I was
Hmm.
thinking and kind of hear his thoughts. So I said, I'm
Hmm.
going to have to spoil it because I don't want to be on here and not be able to and just kind of beat around the bush with it with you. I didn't want to do
Yeah,
that. I was
yeah.
like,
I'm ready to jump right into it.
yep. And so, and where, and another question, where did you film this at?
My basement. It's quite creepy down there. Um, So most of the film was shot in my basement, and then we had a few parks around my area
Uh-huh.
we went to for filming as well.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Did y'all do this in like was it like a set in a like certain season, winter time or anything?
Not necessarily. We
Okay.
filmed it from early spring all the way to like the beginning of summer. Like that was
Okay.
our filming time. So I mean, I guess it was kind of set amongst that time period, that
Okay.
season.
Got you. I was wondering when I seen the basement area because you were right. It does put off a creepy vibe, you know.
Hmm.
And so then we get William sitting at the table with a bowl and he's eating, I don't know if it's chips, whatever, you
Hmm.
know. And he's and this is the part where you hear a lady's voice.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the lady's voice was that played by the I looked her name up. I don't want to fuck her name up. Umi?
Yes. Yes.
Is that how you say that?
Yeah, she's a great voice actress.
Yeah. Umi Fusion. Does that's who did the voice of Amber?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she did both voices. There's a little difference in the voices, but we'll jump right into that soon.
Okay. And so you got William sitting in his basement. He's just, having him a snack and
Hmm.
he hears a voice. And it sounds like it is, man, this part just left me like so many questions.
Hmm.
And it's almost like Amber's there, but Amber's not there because you
Yeah.
hear somebody in the next room because he makes a comment eventually about, Amber's just like right next door in the next room or whatever.
Hmm.
And so you hear him talking and he just gets up from the table and goes to the next room and you don't see nothing.
Yeah, you don't see a thing.
Yeah. And you hear the sounds of this lady and here's another one of the ways my mind took it. She's yelling at him, basically saying, William, I'm not your wife. I'm not Amber.
Yeah.
And it, and my first thing, here's where I went with it, for my interpretation. I took it
Hmm.
as what if he had gotten to the sick, twisted point to where his mama was Amber.
That's a great assumption to make this early in the film, for sure.
Yeah. And I took that and be honest with you, the first time I watched this, I did not
Hmm.
take that. It took today when I was on my lunch break rewatching it again. I
Hmm.
was listening to it more and I was like, holy shit, because she's talking to him like she knows him. Like
Hmm.
this isn't some stranger he kidnapped on the street to
It could
just,
be.
yeah, well, it could be.
Definitely don't rule that out.
Yeah, okay. I said, this is why we got the mind of the whole thing. And this is the great thing of it, people. You watch this and it's like your mind would be like, well, is it this? Is it this? And and for me, I listened to her and I'm like, man, it's like she knows him. And then the way she was saying William, and I'm like, man, could this be Mama? Like he is his his twisted mind,
Mm.
is his mama. So he comes back out though. He's got some blood all over him, like on his shirt and stuff like that. And here's one of my things when it comes to movies that kind of jumps out at me. Uh, because it makes me feel I like movies that makes me feel a little dirty.
Hmm.
And when I seen your hands and you're eating, you still got like the blood and shit on your hands.
Yeah.
And the nails look kind of dirty.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed it. I like that because for me that just it gives me a little dirty feeling. And
Gets you a little dirty, man.
I do. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And so after I feel like I've talked a lot, man.
No worries.
I want you to uh walk me through what's happening
Hmm.
after the scene with the lady.
Hmm. I think with that scene with Amber and the woman, I think there is certainly a lot to interpret there on who this woman is. Is she the real Amber? Is this his mother technically? Is
Mhm.
this just a random woman that he's pretending to be Amber? Um, just really a lot of question marks there for what's even happening behind that doorway. And then right into the next scene, I believe, is sort of Williams talking to a dark parallel of himself, which is really all up in his mind. It's certainly not reality, but it's to reflect reality, as though he's changing throughout the story and becoming a darker version of himself. And so really that whole 10-minute sequence in the film of him beating the woman, him talking to the reflection of himself, and then him in the bathtub. I would certainly say that that's really the near the climax of the film, if it's not already. And it's to exemplify how twisted he's become mentally.
Yeah, and one of the things I liked in it was the two different images where
Mhm.
you had him in his kind of like, shirt unbuttoned,
Mhm.
when he's sitting there eating out of the bowl, and he's just kind of, and but then when, like you said, when he's at that table talking to this like darker version of himself,
Mhm.
where this darker version is more dressed up. He's got the little, what they call them things, a bowler hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the hat on. He's got his vest on,
Mhm.
and it's just a different version of him, and it's almost like when I first, here's where I went with it. I watched it. It kind of reminded me of the fucking Riddler from Batman, where he was this kind of how Nigma was in the beginning. I'm a big Batman fan. I didn't mean to
Me
kind
too. No,
of.
I love Batman. I,
Okay.
I love the Riddler as well, especially Paul Dano's interpretation of his
Yep.
character, which is doesn't have a bowler hat, but I I love the Riddler.
Yep. And that's what it kind of reminded me of when I seen that image. I was
Hmm.
like when Nigma had his moment where he kind of flipped that switch to where he was going to be the Riddler. And
Hmm.
I liked that dark him.
Thank you.
Yeah, I liked him. And that whole, like you just talked about, that whole like 10 minutes or so from him at the table to talking to his like that darker side of himself
Yeah.
to the scene in the bathtub, with the bread.
Yeah. The notorious bread scene.
Yeah.
I've had a few people talk to me about that scene. I think once we get to that scene and he's eating the bread and it's sort of an odd scene. I think out of all the scenes influenced by the works of David Lynch within the film, I think him eating the bread in the bathtub is probably the most Lynchian scene in
Mm-hmm.
the film. Um, and I think with that comes the idea of him possibly being a cannibal. I thought about that.
Okay.
He's eating bread and it's sort of kind of revolving around Amber. And, I was hoping viewers would kind of interpret that as like, well, did he eat Amber or is he just weird and eating bread in a bathtub? Presumably he is covered in blood. I mean, it's not really
Yep.
shown because the film isn't in color, but I'd actually dumped a bunch of blood on myself before filming that bathtub scene. And so I kind of look a little dirty. You can tell my skin looks a little bit off in that
Yeah.
scene.
Well, well, damn it. Now you just gave me another reason to go for another watch now, because that's a different, see, that's a twist I didn't think of at all.
Hmm.
But now that you kind of bring it up like that, I'm like, well, holy shit, like you were covered in blood
Yeah,
and all this. Well, I'll be damned. Hey, and so do you want to get into like how this thing how it wraps up? Do you want to get into the
absolutely.
okay? And so the part where he is sitting there at a table writing another letter
Hmm.
to his mother,
Yeah.
and the radio is playing.
Hmm.
Once again, great music as always throughout this movie. And he starts hearing Amber talking to him through the radio.
Hmm.
And she's basically telling him, like, I'm here, I'm here. And he's like, where are you? And she's
Yeah.
like, come and find me,
Hmm.
and so he goes out to the gravesite
Hmm.
where Amber is buried.
Yeah.
And he's out there, you know, and I don't remember if it was in during this part or if it was earlier on in the movie when he was doing the cigarette smoking
Hmm.
part. But there's a part where it talks about how where he's talking about love. And oh, God, I wish I would have wrote it down, but I didn't do it. But he's talking about love and about his wife being in the ground and
Hmm.
how God damn it, I want to go back and rewatch it just so I can write this part down. But but yeah, and so he's out there at the gravesite and he
Hmm.
is like on his hands and knees out there and he's talking to like Amber. But then the little asshole grounds guy comes up.
He's certainly quite grumpy.
Yeah, and he's kind of like looks over there and he's like, "Oh, great, this fucker again." Like, you know, and so he comes over there and he basically tells him, like, "Hey, you need to just kind of move on, get out of
Hmm.
here," type way. And one of my favorite parts is where he's turns and Williams is talking to the groundskeeper, and he was just like kept saying over and over again, like I don't remember the exact wording you used, but he's like, "My wife is dead."
Yeah,
Yeah,
something along those lines.
yeah,
My wife is fucking dead.
yeah. You almost did that in Irish accent. I would
I
appreciate it.
almost did.
Yeah, I could feel it. It was almost. I was like, yes, there it is. And he just kept saying that over and over again. And
Hmm.
like he is just to that point to where it's like I remember watching going, this dude has snapped.
He
Like,
has snapped.
yeah,
I think he snapped relatively earlier in the
yeah,
film. I think most of the film is him being snapped per se.
yep. And so Groundsman comes up to him and then, fucking kicks him, just
Hmm. Yeah,
then
just stomps him.
yeah, just stomps on him. And then Road Guy Williams, though, he's like, he ain't gonna fucking take
Yeah,
that.
he's got hands.
Yeah, he comes up and I enjoyed the way you shot that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the way when it's like the camera's looking up at you,
Hmm.
just throwing hands at him.
I was worried about breaking my camera filming that scene. Like, I at one point in time, I actually punched my lens hood by accident, and when I was editing, I was like, I heard it, and I was
Oh
like,
wow.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, I was definitely trying hard not to actually punch my lens.
Oh no, that was a good shot. And then, like
Thank
I
you.
said, you reach over and pick the rock up. And when you pick the rock up,
Mhm.
I was like, oh hell yeah, because I'm that type. I've kind of twisted in the mind. I like that. I like that
Yeah, I'm twisted too.
yeah, that dark side of him
Mm,
like finally made its way out. Like
yeah, it was out right there. There's no
yeah,
going back.
yeah, it was building, and then like he finally hit that point, and where he like took that rock and he's like bashing the groundskeeper in the head, you
Yeah.
know. And once he's done, he kind of crawls back over to the gravesite. And this is another part where, like I said, up for interpretation.
Hmm.
Where because when he starts kind of like digging at the ground, he's like he just keeps saying mother over and over again. And I'm sitting there as I'm watching, I'm going, okay, I thought I had some shit figured out earlier. But now I don't have it figured out. And so that's what fuck, man. It was. Can I just go ahead and get to my rating right now?
Just go ahead.
Hey, this is a good fuck for me.
Thank you.
A good fuck. Friends with benefits is what I call it. Friends with benefits.
All right, I respect that.
Yeah,
Hell
that's
yeah.
what, like I said, and the way I explain it is like friends with benefits, like that one. Like every now and then, when you have that itch, you just need to get it scratched. You just call up the friend with benefits. You get your fix. And
I
this is
respect that, man.
and the more I keep talking about it, the more I was going to kind of give it away of just how much I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm glad
Because
you did.
yeah, I've already like I said, I watched it again today.
Hmm.
And when you watch this, to anybody who watches this, you all need to go fucking watch it. But when you watch it, don't just watch it one time. I'm telling you, it's you're going to miss certain things.
Hmm.
You're going to think you had it figured out,
Hmm.
and then you watch it again, and you're like, "Oh shit, I didn't catch that the first time." And
Yeah, there are a lot of things in the film that you may or may not catch on to the first or second time you watch it. And I'm certainly glad that you've kind of advertised to keep watching it because I really think this film requires multiple watches to understand it.
Yep.
And I would really appreciate anyone who takes the time, even just to watch it once. But I think to fully grasp it, it should definitely require a few times for sure.
Oh yes. And now that you kind of gave me another little look at it, now I gotta rewatch it again now
Hell yeah.
to kind of so yeah, and this is definitely a rewatch for me.
Hmm.
Um to anybody who goes and watches it once, like you just said, Sid, you need to watch it more than once. You're not going to figure it out the first time. It's not meant to be. I don't think the thing's meant to be figured out.
It's certainly not to be figured out the first or second time you watch it for
Yep.
sure.
So I am a 100%. This is a friends with benefit, good fuck for me. I enjoyed it,
Thank you. I'm honored.
and I'm glad you let me give it, watch it and rate
Absolutely.
it. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And
Absolutely.
but yeah, this being like first short film, first and the part that impresses me the most is like I said, this was all out of your head. The
Hmm.
writing, the directing it, the acting, all of it was
Hmm.
you. And I am impressed
Thank you.
by
I
that.
really appreciate that.
I am really impressed. And
Thank you.
so awesome fucking job.
Thank you, man.
Now,
It's very, very appreciative.
now for the ones list, that's going to kind of bring us to the how that's how Headstone of Solitude
Hmm.
goes out. Now, me talking about it don't do it justice. You got to watch it. So get off your asses, go check it out. You will not be disappointed. And now, is there anything else in the future? What anything in the works that you want to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I'm working on a gritty drama crime film right now.
Okay.
It certainly takes a lot of things from I guess the horror genre. I think there's a lot of disturbing material in here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's essentially about this film. It's a film about these delinquents and addiction and how addiction kind of overcomes the moral compass of mostly anyone who gets kind of caught up in sort of drugs and sex and violence.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun and it's going to be a disturbing watch for sure. And I'd love to come back on here for it. I'd love to have you fuck it, marry it, or kill
Hey, you have an open invitation to this
it.
show anytime.
Thank you, man. I
Like I
appreciate
said,
that.
anytime. And I'm definitely looking for now. Is this one going to be a short film or are you thinking
I think it's going to be a feature length film.
okay?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit longer than Headstone for sure. Headstone was around like half an hour. I would say this film is going to be around an hour.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there can you give us a little timeline when it might be out?
I've been in very early development on the film.
Okay.
So I would say probably filming, given that it's September currently. I would say filming is hopefully going to begin at some point in November, and
Okay.
we can likely see release and hopefully like mid to late spring. I would hope for
Oh,
sure.
hell yeah. Go ahead. Mark my calendar.
Thank you.
But
Absolutely. You'll be the first one to know when it's out.
hey, shit, hell yeah. And like I said, open invitation to this show anytime you want
Thank
to.
you, my friend.
Like I said, I will more than happy to get on here anytime to because I've already had to ask. I'm gonna have to add that movie to my watch list because I haven't seen it. The one you mentioned
Thank you.
earlier. What's the one you mentioned earlier with Colin Farrell?
The Banshees of Inisherin.
Yeah, never seen it, so it's on my watch
It's a
list.
great film. Yeah.
And because I have to every now and then I've watched so much. I love watching horror, and a lot of
Hmm.
times it's hard for me now to watch a movie that isn't horror related.
Yeah, the Banshees of Inisherin is more so a dramedy.
Yeah,
It's quite funny, but it's also quite dramatic.
yeah.
And I kind of thought to myself when I had first seen that film, like, what if a horror was set in this kind of aesthetic, and and then obviously the Edgar Allan Poe influence came about, and I kind of just meshed it all together. But yeah, the Banshees of Inisherin is a phenomenal watch for
Oh,
sure.
okay. So now I just want to kind of shoot the shit just for a minute
Yeah,
here toward the end of this
absolutely.
thing. And Um, what what is your what's your movie taste? Like, what's your go-to?
I'm kind of a slut for anything.
Yeah,
I don't have a particular genre. I mean, I guess I'm more so attracted to crime films, if anything.
yeah.
But I'm really down for anything. I don't have a particular taste, I would say. Yeah, I try and take aspects from multiple different genres anytime I try and create something. I definitely don't try and just take from one genre. I try and use a multi basis of genres to work off of.
And that's one of the things about like Headstone of Solitude that
Yeah.
it impressed me was it had this old school vibe to it. And
Absolutely.
and that's what gave me another wow when I figured out, like, when you told me your age. I'm like,
hmm
the fact that you appreciate, that era. And
Absolutely.
a lot of people now, a lot of kids now, there's a lot of them who may know about it, and but there's
hmm
some, like the other, like today, for instance, at work, I have my phone playing on my jazz playlist,
hmm
and one of the people I work with come in and they're like, "What is that song you're listening to?" And it wasn't even. It was a more of a popular one,
hmm
that has been out, and the fact they're just looking at it like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm just looking at them like, you missing out. Like, this
They're
is,
missing out, man.
yeah. And I like and we're like, I know we're back on Headstone again, but you know,
No,
but I like the color. It
thank you.
wasn't black and white.
Yeah, it was certainly a mix.
Yes.
A lot of those films from that era of Headstone of Solitude weren't just simply black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I took a lot of inspiration from the likes of Nosferatu and Dracula,
Okay.
um, and the Cabinet of Dr. Calgary. And so those films aren't simply black and white. Those films are kind of mixed in with color in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little odd, but I think when you go back and look at those films, you kind of start to understand that they weren't simply just black and white.
Yeah.
I think the black and white kind of got popularized just a little bit later on in film, but a lot of those 1920s films were had some color in them. It certainly had an odd color to them.
Oh yeah, and I like that with the way you did Headstone of Solitude.
Thank you.
Because when I first kind of looked at it, the trailer, I was like, oh, it's in black and white. And then when I
hmm
got to watching, I'm like, oh, this isn't black and white. This is a little different.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything, like, just hats off to
Thank you.
the I appreciated the little, I don't know how did the popping sound. I call it the popping sound because it just takes you
That's
back to my
fine.
record player. And that one of the first things about it when it starts off is that, and I'm just like, I don't know why, but that's almost like a soothing sound to me. It's
hmm
that sound of, like, that little popping sound.
Yeah, I find it soothing as well.
Yep. So I was all for it, man. Like I said, awesome job,
Thank you.
fucking
I
awesome.
appreciate that.
And but I want to give you a chance right now, though, to kind of let everybody know where they can follow you, look for you
hmm
at. I won't put all this in the bio, but I want to give you a chance, brother, to, like,
Yeah.
to talk about it and let everybody know where they can find
Mhm.
you at.
Well, thank you for watching my film and for giving me this platform. And a thank you to everyone else who's watching this podcast right now, wherever you are. I hope you certainly check out my film. You can check it out on Sid Cinematics, on YouTube, on my Instagram, Sid Cinematics, and on YouTube and Instagram, you can find a bunch of my links. Linked in the linker tree. You can find my photography portfolio, my Instagram, my YouTube, IMDb, Letterboxd. Are you a Letterboxd user, Jay?
Um, nope. But until you sent me the link to
hmm
yours,
hmm
so as of like yesterday, I'm going to be, because I want to jump on here
Hell
to
yeah.
do my review and
Thank
everything.
you. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be awesome.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
definitely going to
it's a
create me an
great app.
account.
Thank you.
I'd never
Yeah,
heard of it until you sent me the link. I
yeah.
was like,
A
"What is
lot of
this?"
people have been really getting into it the past few years. It's become a very big app.
Okay, yep, I've got it actually on my computer screen right now,
Hell
and I
yeah.
want I want to create my account, make sure I get on your page, and
Hell
definitely
yeah.
give
Thank
a
you.
review, and everybody else better do the same damn thing.
Thank you. Yeah, but thank you everyone for watching. Again, thank you to Jay for allowing me to this opportunity. It was great coming on here. This was a lot of fun. I'm certainly excited for the next time. and I'm certainly excited for everyone to see the next film I'm working on. I hope people check that out and enjoy it.
Oh yes, like I said, I'm already looking forward to it. I do enjoy some, criminal type stuff. That's right next to like horror. That's like my next
Yeah,
thing. It's like the
absolutely.
criminal type stuff. So
Uh, There'll be a lot of horror influence in that film, I would say. I think a lot of that material is disturbing, in the same sense that a lot of horror is disturbing. It kind of evokes that same response.
looking
So,
forward to
yeah,
it.
it'll be a very interesting film.
Oh hell yeah, ready for it already.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think hey, once again, I want to give a big thank you to you, Sid, for
Absolutely. Thank you.
letting me be able to, get on here and talk to you about this movie and getting to
Mhm.
watch this movie because and when you hit me up about it, I was kind of surprised because, you know, I get a lot of comments and shit, but nobody ever like ask about wanting to come on this shit show and
Hell
talk about
yeah.
it.
No, this is a great show. I love the premise you got going. I feel honored that you would fuck my film.
Oh yes, I fuck it real good.
Thank you.
But hey, I appreciate you, coming on here, taking the time out. And
Absolutely.
like I told you earlier, brother, it's an open invitation.
Thank you, my friend.
I don't care if you got a whatever you want to promote or something you want
Alrighty.
to talk about, you just let me know, man. And
Thank you,
like I
my
said,
friend.
this the door's always open here.
I appreciate that.
Yep. And like I said, family, y'all need to go check it out. Like I said, it's on YouTube. The links, everything's gonna be scroll down on wherever you're listening to this podcast. It's all gonna be there. Go check out Sid's Headstone of Solitude. Sid's Somatics. Did I say that right?
Yes, you got it right. There you go.
Hell yeah. I'm not too many jacks in tonight.
You're good.
I stayed a little more sober because I knew I had a special. This was a special show, so I was
All
like,
right. Hey, next time I'm on here, maybe I'll have a few drinks.
hey, hey, you just give me the green light, man. We will
All
fucking.
right.
But hey, once again, go check out the movie Headstone of Solitude. Go check out Sid's Instagram, YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, follow, go to the letterbox. And like I said, leave a review, leave a comment and let him know what you think about the movie. Stop by in the comment section for Fright Flick. Go watch Headstone of Solitude. Let us know in there how you feel. But for everybody else, this is that part of the show where I need everybody to grab your drinks. I need you to put your chairs away, and I need y'all to get the fuck out of here. A huge thank you goes out to the associate producers of the show, Kris Owen, Gregory Berry, Beth Davis, and Dylan Matt. The producers, Dave Jarry and Juliane Ormeaux.